Hi students, so I was expecting to be with you today, but unfortunately I can't be with you until tomorrow, so I wanted to record this so we can go through some of the information that you're going to need to know for the Open Note quiz on Thursday. So make sure that you're getting this down in your notes, and I'd also like you to take a look at that map on page 204 as we talk about the resources. This should have been the last slide that we had done, right? As we talk about the resources of Latin America, we understand that because of the large populations, there is a finite amount, and we talked about how relying on one sort of industry like tourism isn't always a good thing either. But there are an abundant amount of resources in Latin America, just like in North America. Things like gold, silver, iron, copper, oil, natural gas, especially in South America, oil and natural gas are huge industries. And they're a world leader in mining and exporting raw materials. And so that relationship, that trade relationship, is very important in some of those South American countries with the United States. So please take a look at that map on page 204. Can you hear this? I'm in the airport right now. So the human-environment interaction, just as in North America, we see this in South America, how people needed to use the environment for their benefit. However, it also did quite a bit of damage that people might not have realized. We saw that short video on the Amazon rainforest. So Native people changed their environment to adapt to their needs. Sometimes they would use these slash and burn techniques, which are very often in very effective in humid tropical areas, where you kind of cut down the trees and burn the debris to clear the fields. And you can see that slash and burn technique right there in that picture. However, that destroys and shrinks the rainforest areas. It adds a lot of emits a lot of harmful substances in the air, and it exhausts the soil of nutrients. So it's not good, especially when you're doing it too often. I think we're realizing this now as a collective world, but sometimes the damage is done and it takes a long time to regenerate. Terrace farming, this is really interesting. Terrace farming had begun in Asian nations. In fact, Asian nations are really perfected terrace farming, but it would be in areas that otherwise couldn't be used for agriculture, and you would kind of cut in these steps into the side of a mountain, because you can't really grow food, agricultural products on a mountain. But if you cut in these steps, it's called terrace farming, and then it is usable, arable land that can be used. We see it in Peru quite a bit. We see it in quite a few of the nations in the Andes that have no other options for growing agricultural products, and terrace farming becomes a necessity. Okay, so I'm going to ask you also, I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to ask you also to do a sheet on kind of the push-pull factors. Now, we've talked about push-pull factors before, and we talk about urbanization, this movement from rural areas to the city areas, and like what would push you to a city area and what would pull you to a city area. But urbanization is especially true. You can see there along the coastlines, the number of people in some of these areas, especially look in Brazil, around Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo. These are incredibly populated areas. So in areas like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, urbanization is a really important factor, because then you have to take into account all the other things that go with it, like infrastructure and water and housing and all of those things. Mexico City is the largest and most populated city in all of Latin America. There's over 20 million people in Mexico City. It's a huge city that has all of the trappings of what urbanization can bring, and it's not always a good thing. I'll talk to you, remind me when we get back together, I'll talk to you about something that's going on in Mexico City, and you're just going to shake your head like, wow, I don't even I can't even believe that. That's like the grossest thing I've ever heard. So remind me to tell you about it. I'm not going to do it on a video. So there's some effects of these rapidly growing populated cities. Take a look at that picture. I mean, the very first thing that you are looking at or thinking about when you see that picture is like, it looks like where people live, almost. You can see off in the distance big, high-rise buildings. But here, people who can't afford to live in those downtown, up high-rise buildings have to be forced to the edges of, and you can see how, like, this is not probably a sanitary place to live. It might be a market. Looks like maybe people are selling things there, but it also looks like maybe people are showering there, like those little tiny stalls. Can you see those little individual stalls? I don't know if that's where people live. I don't think they live there, but I also think that maybe they were showering there or things. Like, I can't exactly tell. You can see those big tubs for water. That's what makes me think maybe those are shower areas. But this is the overcrowdedness and the effects of urbanization. So we get slums, pollution, unemployment, crime, infrastructure. We have, problems with infrastructure, my favorite word. There. Okay, so that's actually all I wanted you to take notes on for today, and then make sure you are working on that handout that your sub is going to give you as well. So see you later. Well, remember, there will be an open note quiz coming up on Thursday, so be prepared. Talk to you later. Bye.